Well, we're approaching Christmas and it's getting cold. Going on the walks in the morning. Look, Ben, how much do you want? Scoops up a handful of sand. Well, would you give me £1 for every grain of sand in my hand at the moment? Said Ben in a bad Scottish accent. Oh, stop playing, Ben, says the other man. Oh, look, I dropped some. Saved you a couple of pounds there. Shame, it would have been a good bargain. I can only hold about 10,000 grains of sand in my hand. Did you think it was more? Local hero. Old Ben on the beach, and they're trying to buy the beach off him because they want to build an oil refinery. See, using logic is perfectly okay, you know, it's sort of what we do as biological machines. No one's got a problem with that. Saying, you know, this is the way the machinery appears to work is absolutely fine. Appears. There's that word though, isn't it? It appears to work this way. And we've had so much experience of not being privy to so much over our history, and so much that was counterintuitive, that we have to remind ourselves of the magic word appears. Static state universe, nature of time, and it's still the case when we're talking about the nature of reality and the nature of consciousness and anything else. And it's good and correct and right to be skeptical and rational and reasonable. This is the, if you like, the adulthood that we grow into. But it's equally correct to keep the mystery and wonder and curiosity of a child, because that allows us to explore things sometimes in an excited way. Childish nature will get excited and emotional and involved in exciting things. Think about how you first discovered the first time what dinosaurs were and how exciting that was to think that there was these massive things walking around. Unbelievable. To lose that sort of sense of curiosity and the excitement that goes along with it is a shame. And it's not really human. Humans are excitable creatures and emotional creatures. We get emotionally involved in things. It would be rather unusual to be the opposite and be unemotionally involved and everything to be simply logical and banal and commonplace and no reason to get excited about things at all. That would be less human. Humans tend to be emotionally invested in things. Whether they believe them or not, it's just the way they are, it's the way we are. We are not automatons by any means, even if we appear to be that way biologically. We don't express ourselves that way normally. Most people don't. We are emotional creatures. Our world is very emotional. Our way of expressing ourselves is very emotional, and that is correct. So we can sort of examine our biology, and we can examine the way we react to things, the way we perceive things, and we can break down our biology and work out the mechanisms for all the things we do. There will be a evolutionary Oh my God, I'm not going across the field, I don't think. Doesn't look good. Will be an advantage, evolutionary advantage, to being able to express things emotionally, as opposed to expressing things in a very rational and unemotional way. Yeah, that has advantages, evolutionarily speaking. So we don't have to be one or the other. We should be a mixture of both. We should be the childish curiosity, getting excited about things that are wondrous around us, and we should be the rational-minded adults that are not going to be duped by the childish part of ourselves. We need both of those things. But like I said, the rational-minded adult has been duped in the past by its intuition and thinking this is the way the world is, and we find out, no, actually, no, it's not. And it's often the curious, excited, emotional mind of the scientists who think outside the box, who come up with new ways of thinking. Often they do that in a very animated and expressive way. And that's why we have so many theories, because lots of people have different ideas that they are emotionally involved in also, and they enjoy having these ideas. It excites them. People like Donald Hoffman, Federico Fagin, loads of people, everybody, not everybody, but lots of people in the scientific community have that childlike quality of, I'm really excited about my research and really excited about my ideas. But you can't get carried away with that. You can't just remain logical and rational and, emotionally detached. I don't think that's necessarily useful. You need to have that sort of spark of curiosity of a child to a degree. But where you end up standing, there are lots of theories, let's say consciousness studies or theories of reality and so on and so forth. Where you stand at the end of the day, there are always extreme arguments on one end that are completely ridiculous. Although I wouldn't dismiss anything at all necessarily, or just out of hand. And on both ends, so both extremes are often, as extremes always are, just extreme and ridiculous. And in between are the rest. And you favour ones that make more sense to you, and that's perfectly okay. And allow people to favour the ones that make more sense to them. That's perfectly good too. Just because you favoured one does not mean that all the rest are wrong. Does not mean that you chose the right one. It's the one that makes the most sense to me, therefore it must be correct. I try to take a position of being, generally I take a position of not believing things, not saying this is true, this is my belief, Jan, to invest something, a concept with life, or imbue something with life, but rather to have a confidence scale in things. I've said this in another video. So, do I believe such and such a thing? No, I have a confidence scale to a degree of 90% that it's probably right. If new information comes along proving that wrong, then my confidence scale would be slid down to something more reasonable for me, and vice versa. So it's more about having a degree of confidence in something and allowing flights of fancy of the imagination, the childhood part of ourselves, to carry your ideas off into other realms. Not necessarily meaning that those other realms then are real and true or accurate. It's just the way we work. Consciousness studies, do I believe that there is anything magical at the end behind consciousness? I don't know. I really don't know. Magical, it won't be magical. It will be something perfectly normal. It will be something that we realise afterwards, oh right, it's that. or there's this quality to the world that I didn't recognize before. So it would be something like that rather than something magical. We haven't found anything magical as yet in the universe, and it's highly unlikely that we're going to find anything magical now. But we may find physics that would appear magical to us, which will appear normal to people when they're discovered, as it is now with physics that we've discovered that we couldn't have known before and would have been considered magical then. And so my stance on anything pretty much is this absolutely true? We can't say that about, there are very few things, if anything at all, that we can say that about. So my position is really, I favour a theory because it appeals to me. That's everybody's right to favour a theory because it appeals to them. I do not dismiss anything else completely out of hand, and the rest is, my confidence scale in that theory is never 100%. My confidence scale in anything is never 100%. Is consciousness anything outside of a brain? I don't know. I think probably not to a large degree, but there is that percentage over that makes me think, I don't know. And there are things that would need explaining, like if there were anomalies of somebody having a conscious experience although their brain was completely and utterly dead, no activity whatsoever. Even one of those anomalies would be enough to warrant genuine research into why that was the case, because that could be an indication of something else. And there are examples of that, and not just one of them, which makes me think, So I would rather have the position of being possibly confident to a degree about a particular concept, idea, theory, and not eliminate other possibilities, because they could end up being correct, or at least having things in them that are potentially correct or indicate something else. Do I believe in life after death? I don't believe in anything, I've just told you that. So my confidence scale in life after death is pretty low. I think we probably just live, die, and that's your lot, and there's nothing left over. However, it's never 100%, so I think there's room for that, or room therefore that there is something potentially after, that it's a continuum, and there are enough anomalies again to indicate that there might be something there. I'm more in the sort of John Wickian camp, and this applies pretty much to everything, but to life after death, or the continuation of anything beyond death, or pretty much anything. This is my position. As in John Wick 4, when his nemesis is in the church with him and asks John Wick, "Are you talking to your wife, who's dead, as is my wife?" And John Wick replies, "Yeah," because he's John Wick. And his nemesis says, "Do you think that she can hear you?" And John Wick says, "No." And he says, "So why do you talk to her?" And John Wick says, "Because I might be wrong." And that's the position I sort of take. My wife is dead, she's probably dead, and I will never see her again. That's the most probable scenario. However, there are studies by Sampania and others, Pin Van Lommel, that make me think there are anomalies, and I cannot explain those anomalies. And I can't just wash them away by saying, well, they're just brain farts, just banal hallucinations of the brain that we've misunderstood. It's just a system looking back at itself, and it's, unexciting, and there's no reason to get all emotional about it. They're anomalies, and they're there, and I need answers to those anomalies, otherwise they're not going to be able to push my scale up any further. So, do I think my wife can hear me? No. Why do I talk to her every day when I walk around the house? Because I might be wrong. Do I think that consciousness survives death? No. Why do I get all excited and animated about the possibility of that? Because I might be wrong. There are anomalies. There are things that indicate that I might be incorrect. Pride comes before a fall. To sit back and be unemotionally logical and rational, and to say, well, it's just appears to be this way, and that's what I'm going to go for, is you might be eating those words afterwards, and maybe it is good to take flights of fancy, and it is good to think freely and come back with conclusions about those thoughts. Not conclusions as in this is definitely the case, but to broaden your horizons about ideas that you have. And we should be collecting those ideas from all sides, from all people. So I don't like the idea of science, not listening to the ideas of other scientists because they sound impossible, crazy, or whatever else. That seems like a ridiculous idea. You're getting rid of potential theories by not having the freedom of thought to accept things that may be lie outside of your theory. That's just silly. I mean, like I say, there are extremes where you just think, okay, highly unlikely. But someone like Donald Hoffman, for example, has been berated and, ridiculed by his community, although he's a hard-nosed scientist. But they just don't like where it's leading. But that's not the idea. The idea is not to get to the point, we're not the Green Party in Germany where you literally, I'm not joking, pay a shitload of money to have some research done and tell the people what we want is the research to come to conclusion, please, that this and this and this is correct about climate, the climate crisis. What's the point in doing the research if you've already decided what your conclusion should be? So have an idea about, or a theory, choose to lean more towards one theory than another, perfectly okay. Don't be completely involved and to 100% in any theory. Be open-minded and curious as far as I'm concerned, and allow others to go on their journey of searching in whichever way they choose to see fit, in a banal, rational, logical, simple, straight, reasonable way, or an emotional, excited, curious, childlike kind of excitement kind of way. Doesn't matter, does it really? As long as the way digs up the gems and gives us the information that we need. And we can't do that when we just eliminate information from things that we just don't like, especially because we don't like the way that somebody might be presenting it. None of this stuff, nature of reality, nature of consciousness, none of this stuff would be being talked about if any of it was clear. It just wouldn't. We wouldn't be doing this, would we? We wouldn't all be doing videos talking about this. Science wouldn't be involved in trying to find these things out. if it were obvious. The very fact that we're doing this gives you the answer. It's not obvious. Nobody knows. That's why we're talking about it. The other thing that I want to hit on very quickly, because this has gone on long enough, is layers. And I might do another video about my position on this. But it's basically that, yes, we are programmed to a degree to see the world the way it is, because we don't have eyes that can see molecules, or we don't have eyes that can see atoms, and so the world of atoms and molecules are irrelevant to us, because I don't see them. All I see is this. I don't have eyes that can look out to the ends of the universe, because I don't have telescopic eyes. That layer, that scale, is not available to me, just like the scale of molecules and atoms is not available to me as a biological creature. My brain is not able to deal with that information, to sort it out anywhere, because it's not the world that I see around me. My eyes don't have the resolution to be able to see those things, and so it's filtered out for me. Like it's just not on my monitor, so to speak. This is correct, and yet whatever makes up this thing here and all of this here, and we know partly of what it is, molecules and atoms and so on, is the same thing that makes up this thing here. And if there is information embedded in that stuff there that is organising that stuff there to a degree, and it might be very subtle information that we don't have physical bioreceptors for. It might be information that is available to a degree in another way. Who knows? We don't know. That's why we're talking about this. Then that information organising that stuff out there is going to be organising me, because that stuff out there and me are one and the same. If you think you can separate anything from out there from its environment, just try. Take a tree out the ground and see how well it does without any water or soil. Try not eating any food, putting things from the environment inside yourself to create a new you every single day. That's literally what you do. You cannot separate anything from the environment, because the environment and the thing are one. My leaning is towards the idea that there aren't any things. There's just the environment. So there are layers to perception, there are layers to how the world is built up. You can look at the quantum layer, you could look at the molecular layer, you could layer what middle world, as Dawkins calls it, of the human being, sort of the layer in between, if you like. We're the middle world between the smallest and the largest, as far as we know. And that's the way the world appears to be. In reality, though, reality sees all those layers exactly the same, at the same time. That would be reality. If you had the eyes of reality, you would understand and perceive every single one of those layers all at once. Everything, everywhere, all at once. So I might do another video about that. Stay curious. Try not to believe things. Have the curiosity and the excited attitude of a child. Be emotional, because that's what we are. We're emotional creatures. The majority of us. Also, don't be overzealous. Be logical, rational. Put things in their place. Okay, that sounds great. It appeals to me. I'd love to believe it. But I'm not going to fall for that and just buy it. Also, that sounds reasonable and sensible and logical. I am distrusting enough of science and our knowledge to not fall into the trap of saying, therefore it is true. Have a wonderful weekend, and be childlike. Don't lose your curiosity. worst thing that can happen.